Good afternoon. Welcome back.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes. So, any reflection or question that you would like to share? Anita, yeah, please. Anita, do you like to speak?
Um, yeah, actually, from the previous session's discussion, I would like to know more about the feelings that we get, as you had mentioned that any incidents that happens or any thing that happens around us, we have certain reactions to it. Like we feel sad, we feel happy, we feel enlightened, we feel depressed. So,
So, we are
how
trying
are
to
these
understand
emotions?
what is the reference point of all those feelings, all those sensations. Like
Okay.
maybe we are experiencing anger, maybe experiencing sadness, maybe fear, but all these are P3, P2. These do have a reference point where we compare and experience the sensation. We compare with that image that we have created in our mind, which is basically a stagnated perception.
So, when you're saying to compare, we compare it with some reference that we've already stored or stagnated.
Yes.
There has to be original thing, right? There has to be, okay, there are layers that we've put up on that. But these feelings of what you call as joy or sadness, or because these are seen even in a newborn. So that newborn, seriously, when we go to into the warm experience of the mother, what the mother was going through. Are you saying that it is only passed down, or there are original feelings too? What we call as Ananda or Satchitananda, which is claimed as, yeah, that is
So
eternal.
original feelings are actually coming from light, sound, smell, taste, and touch
For the child or for the newborn too,
for everyone.
for everyone.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't
No,
get you. What did you mention? Coming from?
Coming from light, sound, smell, taste, and touch.
oh,
Right.
so it's your sensory perception, you mean to say. The feelings are
Yes.
sensory
So
perception,
from sense to
essentially.
sensation and then sensation to perception, this is the original, the genuine, natural progression of
Okay.
sensation. Whenever we are bringing a sensation from imagination, which is not real, there is no sensory reception, but we have a sensation. That cannot be,
That would be a stored one.
that's a stored one. That's a stagnated
Okay.
one, which
Okay.
have a which has a consideration of repeating the past or repeating the others' experience. Both possibilities are there. Like
So,
in,
Kalyan, for example, I've gone through many deaths in my
hmm,
family.
yeah.
So, the first one as a child that I experienced was my grandmother's. So,
Hmm,
there was this sorrow,
hmm.
which was like, and I took it. I can't say whether I took it good or
Death of
bad.
your grandmother, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and I was very attached to her. I was like, but then I realized that over the years, it fades away.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's your mechanism.
Hmm.
You understand it, you perceive it. Sometimes you're angry. The 7 stages, what they call as of grief. I went through all of that.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
for me, I've always had this sense that she's in me, like, she's alive
Hmm.
in me or in my atmosphere, whatever.
Hmm.
But then again, this when the repeated other that's happened,
Hmm.
I could not take it with so much equanimity. So are you saying that it was a learned behavior from the first death
Yes.
that I was carrying forward?
So
And I've taken a longer time to come out of these ones.
yeah. So unless we
Gee.
inquire the foundation of our sensation, the
Mm-hmm.
framework is adopted by us. Even
Okay.
if even if it looks like that this particular sensation fades away, but the
Mm-hmm.
framework, the very framework which was actually a stagnated perception, which was not
Hmm.
inquired, suppose, which is not inquired, and we have just moved on. Then
Okay.
we'll repeat. We are very prone to repeat it in the next occurrence, next similar occurrence. And similar occurrence means, this may have different faces also. It may not similar. Like a person who is having a proneness to get scared of is also having a proneness to get anger also, get angry also. Yeah.
Mhm.
I able to comprehend this, because
Yeah, I got
both
your point.
works in the same framework, that both actually are P3P2 loops.
Okay.
That's the primary loop that operates within ideated sensation. So
Okay.
and this gets concretized, because sensation is very real. Maybe
Hmm.
the idea in our mind, the perceptory domain, that's an unrealistic thing. We are just creating that picture. But the moment we have a sensation about it, we start liking it or disliking it, it becomes a concretized thing, because the sensation is very real.
Hmm.
In her case, what was the sensation, or what is the sensation of having the sorrow of her grandmother's death? So
It's a consideration that death must not occur for my grandmother.
Okay.
and we need to
Commonly
work
this
on
kind of.
overcoming that consideration. Is that
Yes,
what
yes,
we should
this
do?
is an unrealistic ask for the truth. Death may
Mhm.
occur to anyone at any point in time. That's a
So
fact.
if we start eliminating such instances and associated feelings, then won't we become too dry? I mean,
We won't.
I mean,
We won't,
won't.
Kalyan, in
because
my case, I accepted her death, but the feelings were real, right? The sorrow is real.
its sensation
It
is
felt
real.
very real.
Sensation
The
is real.
sensation is very
But the
real.
but the
So where
reference
does
of the
that arise
sensation,
from?
but the reference
Okay.
of the sensation is not real. Sensation is always real. Whenever it is
Right.
happening at the physiological level, it's a very real thing.
Right.
It's the form.
It's very real.
Yes. But the reference point, the source of the sensation, we need to inquire. Like if the source of sensation is physical in nature, then it is real again, because physical things are real. But
Mhm.
imagination, the very meaning of imagination is, it is based on an image, a picture.
Mhm.
So it is created in the mind, which is unreal, which is not real. It's just a picture. So any of the instances of life, if we pick up, maybe from our life or someone else's life, and consider that that is only going to the next step. This is one example of stagnation of perception. Now, here in this particular case, it's actually a misunderstanding of death. So
No, we're quite okay with her passing on, because I have been a Buddhist since I was a 7-year-old. So I have taken most of life's joys, sorrows, all, like, life and death in a very equanimous way, if that is what I'd call. I was okay with her death, but the feeling of that sorrow, that was very real. The tears and I don't know how to describe it. So how would that be unreal, or the uh,
no, that's not
ideation?
that's not unreal. That's not unreal.
Okay.
That's the confusion. That's the confusion. Because it is so real, we start
Mm-hmm.
considering the foundation also as real. That's the confusion. That's the primary confusion that human beings suffer from.
Okay. So you get, like, trapped into that feeling forever. That's what are you
Yes,
saying?
and
The
we
ideation.
keep on justifying it. We keep on justifying. Right now also, as you are saying, if you come out of your own entity and look at this, there is a
Ji.
justification. that
Right.
I was a Buddhist and I knew
Huh.
what is death, but
Huh.
even then
Hmm.
I had this because this was very real.
Yeah.
So there is a subtle justification because of that
Justification.
particular concretized fixation, since
Mm-hmm.
it is happening in my body, it's very real.
Hmm.
kind
It's
of
very real.
kind of justification kind of justification
Oh.
but that cannot be real because the foundation itself is unreal. How can it be real? So there is a difference between uh, seeing a picture of something, some entity, maybe a tree, and
Mm-hmm.
touching an actual tree or seeing the actual tree. There's a difference,
True.
right? And both may bring you some sort of sensation. You may have a wow, a kind of good feeling seeing a picture of a tree, but that the very foundation of that particular wow is unreal. So this particular sensation cannot be claimed as a real experience of a tree.
Mm.
Right.
Do we see that?
When feeling wow, when you see the actual tree is also coming from a place of considering that tree as special.
Yeah.
Yes, agree to it, because
So
even if so this is a very valid input from Beenal,
Mm-hmm.
that even if it is having a physical uh, doorway, then also there could be a juxtaposition of sensation. So we like in the morning we discussed that somebody slaps, so there is a physical input and a pain may occur. That's a sensation which is real, but the interpretation of that slap as an insult is giving me a pain, which is another sensation juxtaposing with the real sensation. Now that may lead us to consider that this is a physical experience, that is why I am irritated, I am angry,
Mm-hmm.
so that juxtaposition also will try and understand the confusion of these two kinds of sensation.
Okay, so basically we should lead to an understanding of physical, real experience and the feeling associated with versus
Again,
the one which is
the
based on
narration of should
perception.
contains an instruction, which is again another confusion, which is another
Okay.
stagnated perception. But if
Hmm.
we lead through the real sensation, then the alignment with the truth is more. This is what we can understand. Now,
Okay.
after understanding this, whatever happens, that is structured to happen.
Hmm.
We may continue leading an irrational life, even
Yeah.
we intellectually have this information. So that cannot be controlled. If it is controlled, then again it is another layer of irrational way of leading a life. So yeah, that way.
also Sapnaji mentioned about being attached to the grandmother. So maybe attachment also can be explored further, wherein many a times
Yeah,
we
what do we
confuse
mean by
attachment
that?
with love.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
True.
is so
Yeah.
We can continue.
Yes. So in the same line, in the similar line, we are now trying to understand the formation of mind, because mind is a mystery that we all are subject to. How the mind gets formed, what is the realistic understanding of formation of mind. So under the similar kind of natural order principle, we'll try and look at it. So let's try and understand the formation of an inquiring mind. Inquiring mind where no perception is stagnated. The perception has got a dynamism of exploring the things fresh every moment. So there is no previous reference that operates and influence the current perception. So how that happens? Now, light, sound, smell, taste, and touch. These 5 information that we collect from outside through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin, respectively. Now, with this, actually, every time, every information is being collected, received by our sensory organ, there is some sensation. There is some or other sensation that occurs within the body. It is obvious. Now, yes, Sapna. You want to say something? Okay, you're unmute, so I thought, yeah. So body sensation, which comes after the sensory reception. Now, body sensation brings a perception. Perception definitely is obvious after the sensation, because we try and understand the sensation, why it is happening, and what is the root cause of it. So that's a very automated experience of us. And now this form a responsive memory. Even if we are not scared of the fire next time, but we remember that last time I got burned. It's not forgotten. So it is stored in the brain. It is imprinted in the brain. So that forms responsive memory without any sensation. That responsive memory doesn't have any sensation. It has got just the information. So this is the root of forming an inquiring mind. So perception, one by one, every moment we are collecting, and we are actually strengthening our mind, whatever the way it may be. In this particular illustration, it is an inquiring mind. So here we see P1 in the first layer, the physical domain, and then it's the P2, the second layer, second domain, and third is the P3, which is the third domain or the psychological domain, perceptory domain. So sense to sensation, sensation to perception, and perception brings newer action. So this is the framework of a formation of an inquiring mind. Now, formation of a non-inquiring mind. Non-inquiring mind is driven by the ideas. Ideas are necessarily either imagination or assumption. Imagination pertains to the past and assumption pertains to the future. It is not of the present. So we are not fully present in the present moment. We are influenced by the past or the future. That's what is the ideas. Now, this idea is bringing sensation. If the ideas are bringing sensation within us, then that particular sensation, as we were discussing, is something unrealistic, because it doesn't have a real base of occurrence. And that particular sensation, when we experience, we try and strengthen that previous idea, due to which this sensation is occurring. And now that strengthening of idea will definitely repeat the sensation, and that becomes a loop within itself. So it's a recurrent loop, and where we see P3, P2, P3, P2. So it becomes a loop in itself, and it goes infinite as a framework. That's what the particular sensation may fade away, but the framework is adopted by me. And unless we inquire and question this, that framework remains with us. And with any kind of trigger, if you understand the toxemia, which we'll explore, that allergy when we claim that we have a dust allergy, suppose. Dust allergy, dust is not the cause of the experience, discomforting experience. It is a trigger. And the framework of toxin is already there inside the body. We'll try and understand that as well. So here also the same thing operates. The framework is already adopted by us, and it just needs a trigger to come out again, to happen again. So this is a formation of a non-inquiring mind. Now, coming to that confusing characteristic of conflicting order. So this is a basic confusion that we just discussed, that sensation looks as real as it is. Why? Because it is a concrete experience, and there is a chance of having a concrete base. Yes, Pooja, you want to say something? Okay. So there is a possibility of having a concrete foundation as well, and that creates the confusion. So let's try and understand. Before that, let's revise the conflicting order. So from a perception, it brings a psychological sensation. As you see, this particular arrow is having double head. So it goes back and creates a loop. So what kind of loop? It is actually repeating in itself. Repeating in itself and depleting. And this repeating, that repetance actually needs our energy. It cannot be repeated without energy. So it keeps on depleting our energy. Now, alongside, at this state of depleted energy, if we take an action, and that action leads us to another loop here. What kind of loop? It brings a failure, and that failure actually brings another layer of justification on the same thing, and we keep on repeating the similar kind of action, and for the same reason. For the same reason, that absence of inquiry. Unless we question our action and for its source. What is the source? Ideally, the action must have a perceptory source without any sensation from P3 to P1. But here, the action is having a source of P2, and which looks like I have an understanding, that is why I am taking this action. So this confusion plays around. The confusion of sensation as perception. We are operating because of our sensation, but we are claiming that this is my understanding. Because of the confusion, because of the juxtaposition of sensation at the first place. As we explained, that slap is interpreted as insult. Now, since the slap is a physical action, we start claiming that me feeling bad and considering this as insult has got a physical reason. But if we dive deep into it, the physical reason is nothing but light, sound, smell, taste, and touch. That's it. And if the intensities of light, sound, smell, taste, and touch are higher, then there will be an irritation. If it is soothing, then it will be a pleasurable. As simple as that. So even if there is a harshness in the intensity of the information, this actually dies down. Why? Because the source dies down. The source dies down. That is the reason the sensation due to the physical input also dies down. It ends. It has an end. But the sensation which is coming from the perception, stagnated perception, is endless. Because the perception doesn't have an end. The source doesn't have an end. That is why the sensation due to that particular thing, which doesn't have an end, also doesn't have an end. Now, at this space, we end up justifying and creating another loop here. So we'll just see this particular illustration where the arrows are separated now. The two headed arrows are now separated. And this is the reason of the confusion. We will be able to understand in this the reason of the confusion. Now see, if we start, so as we started with the sensation may come to, so look at the red arrows, this arrow and this arrow. Both arrows are towards the sensation. So the source of the sensation may be a physical action and may be a perception. And this becomes a confusion. Actually, it is in the reverse order. It is always from a perception. But we juxtapose that considering a simultaneous physical action is the reason. So if we just dialectically, if we go deeper into the physical action in consideration of the types of information which are basically light, sound, smell, taste, and touch, and the intensities of that. So the interpretation, the very interpretation is a psychological perception. But just because it is happening simultaneously, as you see, okay, so the numbers are like the red, this particular is the first arrow, first connection, P3 to P2. Then second connection is P2 to P3. This is creating a loop. From there, we ended up taking an action, which is the third connection, this green arrow, and which is again creating a loop, which is a fourth arrow, as you see. And then the fifth arrow is the justification excuse arrow, which is coming from P1 to P3, which also again create a loop, which is the sixth arrow. But this sixth arrow or the third arrow are the same in nature because it is coming to the action, but the source is basically a perception. Source cannot be a sensation. So obsessive action are often claimed as this is coming from my understanding. This is not my obsession. So we keep on justifying that. So this particular image actually shows the confusion of the action, confusion of sensation, and confusion of perception, all three. Any question or you would like to spend some time on this? Yes, Anita.
So, taking the same slapping incidents,
Yes.
as you said, physical pain, can we
Goes
say
away.
it's a valid pain, and the insult associated with it's coming from some perception which is there with me to call it as an insult? Or I mean, how should we train
So,
ourselves to not to take it as an insult? I mean, what is, how
see,
should one look at it?
see, it may be an insult as well. Really, it may be an
Yeah.
intentional insult.
Right.
But our understanding is compromised when we consider that the insult is a painful thing for me.
Is it not?
It's not, because the painful so this is another layer of consideration. This is another layer of interpretation. We have created a benchmark for my prestige, for my esteem, which is a pseudo consideration that doesn't have any realistic importance unless I consider it is important. Because this particular I that I have created in my mind about this existence itself is imaginary.
Mm.
Are you able to comprehend this?
Mm.
That
Oh, okay.
calling this
Mm.
as I,
Mm.
and this particular I has got contained as choices, opinions.
Mm.
If there is no opinion, there is no I. If there is I, then there are a lot of opinions. So
Mm.
I lead myself into that particular opinionated area of
Mm.
considering insult as a painful thing. For whom? For I, for
Mm.
me.
Mm.
Are you able to connect?
Yeah.
this
Sir,
particular aspect?
Kalyan sir,
Yes.
but if I get the slap, and
Yes.
that is the painful incident,
Physical,
and that is
physically
insult
painful.
also
Physically
हाँ,
painful.
physically
Yes,
painful.
and that ends.
But that person intention is to insult me.
Yes.
Then at that moment of time when I get the slap, I have to take some action also, na.
You have to take some action is a pressure. It's an ongoing pressure onto yourself. You are actually structured to take some action at that
हाँ,
moment.
तो
At that moment, because of the abundant energy, you will end up taking some action. There's no worry about it. But the worry that we carry, that I must take an action, is an extra pressure. Do you see that?
so
There
sir,
are two
at that
things.
moment, yeah,
Yeah.
at that moment, if instantly I also slapped at another person, so that is the what is that? I have taken the action, means at that moment I feel the pain, and instantly I also slapped that other person. Yeah,
Mhm.
I say some words to him,
Mhm.
and I have taken the action. So
Mhm.
that is considered as
What is
matlab
the foundation of that action? Is it coming?
So my pain, what I am getting from that person.
So it's a psychological pain, right? You're talking about, or not the
The
physical, or the
pain
physical?
also, sir, physical pain also I am getting, and psychological pain I am also getting.
So
Both
should
the
I say my
pains are,
self-esteem or self-respect is attacked?
हाँ,
So,
Yes.
It can
What is
also
that?
be self-defense.
so I
Yes.
slap back.
Yes. Self-defense is something which is very much natural.
Mhm.
And for that, there is no strategy needed.
So, because it's
There
a
is-
reflex action. If somebody
It's
attacks
a
me,
reflex action. It's absolutely a reflex action. And for that, no planning is needed. You know, it's at the physical level. But here, suppose there is no slap. There's just a shouting at you.
Mm.
And shouting at you is not a physical attack. It's a just or even if it is not shouting but insulting that way, you know, taunting in a low volume. There is no harshness in the physical input of the information as far as the sound is concerned. Shouting may create some irritation in the aerodrum, but it's not shouting even. It's just taunting you, commenting or criticizing your action, which you consider as unwanted. That means there is a want that you have already created, that my work must not be criticized. But the fact is, it can be criticized. So I'm denying the fact. Due to my ideation, I'm denying the fact and considering that nobody should do it. So can we see that? You know, that imagery, that mental imagery that we create, due to which we actually create a lot of stories for ourselves. Are you able to comprehend, Pooja, somewhat?
yeah, so
yes,
essentially it becomes a loop. The insult also comes, or
Yes.
the reaction also comes from a previous experience. We're not
Yes.
able to differentiate between that this is a fresh happening and there might be a series of previous happenings.
Yeah.
But then we also get into that loop of behaving and responding in the same way.
Yes. And the previous experience also did have a similar kind of imagery. If it is a psychological
That it-
consideration that we are talking about, then it has
Mhm.
got similar kind of imagery which actually drove this. And I am retaining that framework within me because I did not inquire into. I did not inquire my imaginations.
So,
You know,
sir,
but
one
the
more
insult
question.
could be for real. The insults could be intentionally real. Like physical attack is also intentionally
The
real. The psychological
intention, the intention itself is imaginary. If it is,
my own intention
no,
that
anybody
I'm
is,
being
anybody is.
anybody.
If the individual is insulting you, it's
Hmm,
that individual's imagination he or she
that
is
they are
driving with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because there are a lot of consideration in the execution of insult.
Okay.
There are consideration of punishing, there are consideration of correcting, that if I insult, then one may get corrected. If I insult, then that one individual is punished because he is worth getting punished, and all these stories and endless stories.
It could be control, it could be anger, it
Yes.
could be anything.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So it's basically is having a foundation of image. Yes.
So,
So
sir, I have one question. Like
yes.
the person gives slap
Hmm.
and he get the sensation, and on that basis he create the he perception he created.
Hmm.
Next time again when he met that person
Hmm.
with the past experience, he will take some act. He will might be go from that place that he has created the image that again I will get the slap from that person. So,
It
sir,
means
this is
it
not.
means I'm not meeting fresh with that person. I'm influenced with the past experience while meeting the person next time. Can we
So,
understand
sir,
that? And let's,
but sir, every time we can make it fresh because every time if I get the same response, so every time I can't make it fresh.